He's been playing bass at the Ethical Society since before I was born. And we're going to hear a little bit about that from him, hopefully. He's wanted to tell an origin story after I introduce him. So welcome to the Philadelphia Ethical Society. My name is Philip. I'm the leader of the society. And we gather here every Sunday for a little bit of music, a little bit of learning, some building of community. And then we also have different programs throughout the week run both by the Ethical Society and by dozens of organizations that rent and use space in this building. So it's multi-floors. If you're here for the first time, I encourage you to explore the second floor. We also have a kitchen up there. We own and operate this space as really a third space, a semi-public space for community life and democratic life in the city. Hundreds of organizations use this space, and we come together here across divides, no matter our affiliations or our religious beliefs, but on the core principle that it's possible to come together across differences and do good things in the world. One of the main good things that we do as the Ethical Society is we own and operate a camp, environmental education and swimming camp for kids, for low-income kids in Philly and elsewhere, to experience the joy of nature. Experience the joys of nature. And it is a gorgeous 50-acre property in Chester County. And every year, hundreds of children learn how to swim, play with the bugs, look up at the old trees. And you can learn more about Camp Linden and put out some info back there. We're celebrating the 100th anniversary of Camp Linden this year. It's been operating for 100 years. And thanks in part to many of the folks here today, and I'll say a little bit about that a little bit later. But we're having two big camping reunions out at Camp Linden this summer, where we celebrate both nature and the people and the program of Camp Linden. One in July and one at the end of August. So if you want to learn more about that or take a volunteer day trip out to Linden, please come and find us. So the Ethical Society, the first Ethical Society was founded in New York, and we are among about 20 societies in the country. And it was founded on a core set of principles. One, that every individual has dignity and worth, inherent dignity and worth. Two, that social action, ethical action, is more important than your belief system, i.e. deed before creed. And three, that a sort of golden rule for how humanity might move forward is by bringing out the best in others, by decentering the individual and thinking about relationships and how we might bring out the best in those around us and thereby bring out the best in ourselves. And I think it's this third principle, despite being built upon in the late 1800s, that just survives so clearly to today in terms of good facilitative leadership skills. So, dignity and inherent worth in every individual, deed before creed, and acting so as to elicit the best in others. I wanted to just give a grounding for those who are new in the room. We always have new folks in the room every Sunday, and it's exciting to see new people. So welcome. We do have a few rituals that we do every week. We listen to some music, as I said, we learn together. But we also take a moment of silence, just about a minute. And then we open the floor for those who want to share some joy or concern that they're feeling briefly so that others can share. So I'm going to give you about a minute. Calm your breath, close your eyes if you want, and I'll call you back in. upstairs, we've started our monthly deed of the month. So the whole idea of the society is to practice values in action. And some of the families who are starting a family program, or restarting a family program, have come up with this concept of a deed of the month that the whole family can do together. So upstairs, once a month from 10 to 11, we have an activity that the little ones can do, the medium-sized ones can do, the big people can do, and it usually focuses on some act of solidarity with another organization in Philadelphia. So the first few months have been building meals for community fridges, building care packages for women in need. Joys and concerns. I'd like to share a joy or concern. Yes, Tara.
Yes, some of you have followed the adventures of my 20-year-old cat, Meatball, who is a crazy character of a cat, a black cat, who used to be famous, kind of famous on the internet long ago, but I have to report that unfortunately she passed away this past week. She was very sick, she had a stroke and had to be put down, so I'm very sad, but she had a good long life. So that's the story of Meatball.
Happy Mother's Day, and I just wanted to mark the passing of one of my favorite people, which is Ted Turner. I think he was a true humanist. He did so many things that were worthwhile and considered the welfare of the people of this country, not just for his own welfare. And I'm sorry to see him, but I appreciate him.
Joys and concerns. Maybe say your name, we don't know you.
Hello everyone, my name is Samantha, it's my first time here. Not my very first time here, I've been here for another group's event. And it was actually a discussion about a beagle farm and laboratory out in Wisconsin that was going to be criminally abusing their animals. So before I get to that, I had a really big surgery in January. They replaced both of my mandibular joints. You're familiar, so I don't have full function of all my muscle branches in my face just yet, but I'm getting there. And basically the first opportunity that I could, where I felt well enough, I decided to join the team that went out to Wisconsin and attempted to break in again. It was not exactly successful in entering the facility this time because they dug a massive moat around the facility, filled it with cow manure. People did become ill from various whatevers were in there. Followed by a huge fence, if you will, or barrier of hay bales, which we had to deconstruct and climb over. I also have a back condition and closing spondylitis, so it's a struggle for me, but I struggled with my jaw for a while, and it stopped me from doing a lot. So the first opportunity I could, I wanted to really invest in something that is really important to me. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share with people who I think are concerned with animal welfare. So thank you all for hearing me.
Any other joys and concerns? Yeah.
So, Joy, I'm a college professor. The semester just ended.
Oh, you were going to go somewhere else with that. Okay. see so many new faces here and people returning. So, my favorite ritual every week is listening in this beautiful hall to a different musician. And Warren Ogree is a local musician that has been playing concerts at the Ethical Society for decades. And Warren, I'd like to welcome Warren Ogree to the stage. And give a big round of applause. And if he's willing to, maybe say a few words about some of that history. Okay.
Thank you. How is everyone? Good. Before I say anything about that history, I have a concern. And one of my concerns is in 1967, I was in Dak To, Vietnam, with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. And my concern is that I hear so many people talking about war and wanting war and let's go to war who've never been to war and whose children have not been to war. And that's a big concern with me because if you've been in a war, it's unlikely that you would want your children to be in war and that you would want to go back to war. But anyway, that's that. I just want to get that out. My history with the Ethical Society sort of parallels my history with music. I didn't start playing, by the way, that's my baby, that's Kay. I didn't start playing the bass until I was like 25 years old when I got out the Army and got into a lot of crazy stuff. Because I was in the war, I thought I was Superman when I got out. And I found out that I was not. And at any rate, I started this group called the Arpeggio Jazz Ensemble. And I used to, people used to say, oh man, you play? He's like, who you play with? I said, Arpeggio. And they said, who? And I was like, wow. And they were like, what? I said, man, I gotta do something about this. So I had to start hiring myself, which meant producing our own concerts. And this is one of the first places that we utilized back in 1973, something like that, 74. And we put on our first, when I say we, I mean the group, we put on our first concert here. And it was just a beautiful feeling. We had about 2 people, but I felt I was on to something. and what I was on to, it just felt so good. It felt so good. And I never thought in a million years that I'd be doing this for a living, much less, which again leads me to say, whatever you believe in, do it, go after it. Don't listen. And when I say don't listen, I mean, you will hear a lot of people say, oh man, be for real, come on, are you serious? Don't listen. Listen to your heart. If your heart is saying, go ahead and do it, and I'm talking about something positive, of course, then do it. Then do it. Don't do everything your heart tells you, but do that. And so as time went on, we started producing events at the Walnut Street Theater, Studio 5, different other places, community college. And now, fortunately, matter of fact, we're on our way to Ghana, West Africa in June. We've been traveling around the globe and playing music and doing things. And even though it's been over 40 years or so, when I touch my baby there, I still can't believe it. I still can't believe it. And I'm so thankful and grateful that I had the sense to follow that dream that I had. And so I just want to say, follow it, please follow it. Because I didn't want to be, 108 years old if I lived that long and sit back and say, man, I wish I had done that. So whatever your dream is, follow it, because this is proof that it can come true.
Thank you.
increasingly trying to publicize that, so stay tuned. And another round of applause for Warren Ogree.
I'd like to do a tune just by one of the great jazz musicians of all time, Thelonious Monk. And it's a piece that he wrote called Blue Monk.
Thank you, Warren. Warren will be back at the end of the program. So I'm very pleased today to welcome Aissia Richardson, a longtime member of the Society, back here at the Society to have a, as she put it, a sort of fireside chat. And increasingly I've been really compelled by more of an interview format on Sundays because it opens up the possibility to be surprised in different ways because of the dynamic. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Aissia, and then we're going to have a conversation on stage and a Q&A with you all. And when I invited Aissia to come to the Ethical Society and do a platform, I didn't realize she had already done several platforms. One of them on jazz music, and a few other topics. But she also sent me a bio that was very useful for me in terms of understanding the context of her work. And it starts with a statement on ethical culture, or ethical humanism. So I'm going to read that statement, read a little bit about her, and then we're going to have this conversation. So, quote, "We are dedicated to the principle that relationships of respect, compassion, and integrity are the building blocks of personal and global harmony. We hold that democracy is not just a political system, but also a personal commitment, a continual exercise in freedom of conscious thought and moral responsibility expressed through humane deeds. We seek to promote personal moral development and social responsibility through direct assistance, social action, and public advocacy." This was an excerpt from a statement on where ethical culture and ethical humanism stands at the beginning of the 21st century. adopted by the National Leaders Council of the American Ethical Union, which is the larger organization that we at the Ethical Society are part of. Most people, when you ask them to send you their bio, don't start it with a quote like that. And so I think to me, it grounded me in where Aissia comes from and how important she thinks ethical culture is to her life. So a little bit about Aissia. Aissia strives to unite elected officials, planning professionals, and the public with a common vision of making a vibrant district even greater by building consensus on addressing the issues of poverty, public safety, economic development, and quality education. She currently serves as the Deputy Chief of Staff for State Senator Sharif Street, and she served as the Chief of Staff for 2 state representatives in the 197th District from 2014 to 2018. Her professional career and volunteer experiences have focused on addressing unemployment, increasing economic development opportunities, supporting quality education and training, and establishing community partnerships with nonprofit organizations to decrease poverty and create a trained and educated workforce. She served as the president of the African American United Fund from 2006 to 2014, and was responsible for creating the fund's development plan and organizing events to raise funds and awareness about its mission. She implemented community festivals, concerts, conferences, workshops to raise funds for economic development, social change advocacy, and quality public education. Another big project that deserves probably a whole introduction. As the Uptown Entertainment Development Vice President of Operations, she was responsible for creating and implementing the organization's fund development plan. And if anyone knows Philly and the Uptown Theater, this is quite a big project that's been in the public eye for a long time. She served as board member of the Bread and Roses Community Fund, another core social institution in Philadelphia, if you're not from here and haven't heard of it, Bread and Roses, and was appointed by City Councilman Wilson Good as an advisory committee member for Digital Inclusion Group. She was appointed by Mayor Michael Nutter to serve on the SEPTA Citizens Advisory Committee, and was elected in 2009 as the first African American woman to chair the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission Regional Citizens Committee. He was also elected in 2022 as the PA Democratic Party State Committee member, and in 2025 lobbied the leadership of PA Dems and circulated petitions to create a climate caucus to focus on environmental justice and climate change issues here in Pennsylvania. She has 3 adult children, 1 granddaughter, and resides in North Philadelphia. Please welcome to the stage today, Aissia Richardson. What's the name of your base again, Warren? K. Just so we properly refer to K. K's up on stage with us. And let me make sure you have your glass of water in case you get thirsty.
You do. Yours is right here.
I thought that was mine. Oh, that's yours. There you go. That's it.
All right.
I'm gonna bring my notes.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Haven't been here in a while. It's so nice to be here. And I see my daughter, Yasmina, in the back, and her partner, Quan, and my granddaughter, Aura, who is the light of my life. My sister, Monifa, is here. And happy Mother's Day to all the moms. And furry moms, too.
Well, so I looked at my notes. I met up with Aissia for the second time. The first time was at Carol's annual party, Carol, raise your hand. So if you want to know about an annual gathering that you need to come to, speak to Carol. It happens once a year. But the time that we really sat down and started to get to know each other, I just took notes, and I just wanted to read the first bit because it kind of felt like something worth starting out here. So notes with Aissia. Grandfather's atheism, 7 kids, Aunt Sheila, lots of play, library and nursery upstairs, parent effectiveness training, constituent services, bus fare to Rittenhouse, ethical society has a balancing effect. Hard to come back now because it opens a wound. Selling the building? Hell no. Okay? And so that's what I wrote down. Just the first part of my notes, I was like, oh, okay. Why don't we start with grandfather's atheism? Tell us about the family that you come from and how you ended up in a place like Ethical Society.
Sure. So, I am a fifth generation Philadelphian. My grandparents came from the South. Well, my grandmother came from the South. My grandfather was from New Jersey. But they were institution builders. They built schools and they built churches. My grandmother was a member of Second Baptist Church at Broughton, Erie, and there was a falling out at the church. And I'm trying to figure out what was going on. My grandmother was a lady. She was very, very proper. She was a proper lady. Many of you knew Bertha. And so when she was recuperating from having my Uncle Jackie, the pastor came to visit her and hit on her. And that broke her. She said, "No, I'm not coming back." So I learned that history in just, talking to my aunts. They raised 7 children, and they were very interested in their spiritual life, but also interested in their cultural life and in their educational life. Education was very important to my grandmother. When they came here in 1964 to the Ethical Society, my grandmother had just had my aunt Nika. She was birthing from 1946 to 1964 with her 7 children, and her older children were teenagers, and they became Sunday school teachers. And I remember our last Sunday school teacher was Sheila, and what we learned was comparative religion and Sunday school at 10 years old. And that's what we brought with us in our entire lives. Our respect for where people work, respecting people for where they work. Not taking negativity, not absorbing negativity, but accepting people for what they brought, accepting them for the humanity that they brought to the world.
And so one of the reasons why I was excited for it landed by accident, but we've been working, or the families that have been rebuilding a family program here have been thinking about this deed of the month. And that was this morning from 10 to 11, as I mentioned. And so we're at this moment where we're asking ourselves as a society, what does a family program look like? What does it mean to have, parents with kids be able to access this space and also be a part of it and think about the future of their kids? Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like when you were coming to Sunday school here, and give us a context of the years and sort of.
So Sunday school was a family activity. We came with our cousins because my grandmother had a large family. We had a large extended family, so there were always siblings and cousins here, and then sprinkled in some other members from the society. We did workshops and workbooks. We had coloring. We sang. We did performances here on the stage. We played a lot. We got to know the building really well, which is why the building is so important, because it became part of our childhood and our adult life as well. This was a place that hosted our family events, our birthday parties, our weddings, our funerals, our memorial services, our baby namings. My daughter's naming ceremony was here, and her baby shower for her daughter was here. So the Ethical Society just became inculcated in our lives. And as a child, we traveled wherever we lived, and we lived in a lot of places because we was poor. But we traveled on public transportation to get here, and our parents gave us car fare to get here, and a little bit of money for the lunch plate, a little bit of money for the charity plate here, and then we traveled back on public transportation, or our grandmother would drive us back home. The coming to the Ethical Society also represented independence. It represented the cohesiveness of our family. I was oldest, so I was responsible for leading my brother and my cousins to come to the society. We didn't get in trouble. We would take the train, we would take the subway, take the train, and get off at 19th Street and walk from 19th and Market up to the Ethical Society through Rittenhouse Square. Rittenhouse Square was our playground. And so being one with nature was also a really big part of being part of the Ethical Society as well. I think of Rittenhouse Square as mine as well. My mother used to say, when you lick it, it's yours. And so these places are places where our DNA is part of it. And so they're really important places to protect because so many amazing ideas come out of this space and action comes out of this space.
So one of the things when we first met, and the when you look at it's yours makes me think of this. So you said, others saw your family as different or weird, and that there was something different about your family in the way they thought, either intellectually or spiritually. Can you tell us more about what you mean by that?
So unique. My grandmother was a grammarian. She loved grammar. So when I say so unique, it makes us laugh because she would correct us and say, unique is already its own adjective. You don't need anything to enhance it. So that is our lives. Our lives were unique experiences. My mother sent me to Cuba for a summer camp when I was 11, and that is the gist of our family. Our family was global. Our family was interested in regional, local, and global politics. Regional, local, and global issues. For decades, we didn't eat grapes, in solidarity with the farm workers who were being abused, and so by Gallo. So they drank wine, but they didn't eat grapes. I look at it as a badge of honor, being aware. Weird is enlightening to me. Weird is opening doors to me. Weird is not pejorative. Weird is exciting. Weird is so unique.
That makes me feel like part of your family already. So one of the things you talked about when we spoke was the role of the society in stabilizing people's lives, and also the way you decided to pursue a major in psychology, and that part of your goal was really to help people stabilize their lives. Can you explain what you mean by that?
My grandmother, again, was a social worker, and I talk a lot about my grandmother because she was an incredible woman, but she also was a leader in her own right, and she was a social worker, and part of being a social worker is about stabilizing individuals, families, communities, and cities. That foundation helped me to understand a little bit more about what I wanted for my life and for the lives of the people around me. And mental health is a serious issue, and understanding mental health, and our family, unfortunately, has a history of mental health. It's part of our family, and what I learned about mental health is it's like with fear. You can't suppress fear. You have to use it as a suitcase. You gotta carry it around and deal with it, because if you suppress it, then that becomes your modus operandi. You're just suppressing your fear. And it's the same with mental health issues. You have to be able to manage it in order to move forward. And that's what life is about, moving forward in ways that are healthy and productive and will get you to a goal, and then you set another goal and you keep moving forward.
So much of what your bio talks about is economic development and the role of good jobs, access, opportunity. Can you speak about how you moved from thinking about what I imagine in college would have been a more narrow focus on psychology, although it sounds like you also went to a really interesting psychology program, so maybe touch upon that a little bit, like how you ended up moving from major in psych and a minor in theater, which maybe we're gonna have to get to theater at some point, but to a job in politics.
I think that was a perfect major, to major in psychology and minor in theater, because politics is theater. There's a lot of theater in politics, and there's a lot of crazy people in politics as well. But I think part of the focus on economic development is really focusing in on poverty. Poverty is the definition of chaos, and it is difficult to move out of chaos if you don't have the means. And while we grew up with low incomes, we always had experiential learning, traveling to the Ethical Society, Camp Linden, to the AAU camps to explore our world and get to know different people. That was enriching in our lives. And none of us, we work now, my family, my sisters and brothers, we have our own homes, we have professional jobs. We're not gonna be rich, but the work that we do in helping people to move forward in their lives is incredibly enriching. And that's the definition of doing work to help other people to benefit their lives and to benefit your life. So economic development is really about helping people to stabilize, to move people out of poverty, to help them to realize the beauty of life. And you can experience beauty while you're in chaos, but you really need to be stable in order for you to pass that stability down to your next generation and the next generation. You cannot move further unless you move out of poverty.
You painted this picture of yourself sitting on a floor in San Francisco, the light coming in through the window, and it was 1994, and you said the thing that was on your mind was all you wanted to do was have lunch with your mom. We're on Mother's Day. Tell us about your mom.
So this coming back to society is a little to the space. While I love the space, I lived here as a child. My father was a caretaker. So I used to ride my tricycle upstairs in the where used to be the coffee meeting space. And so and playing in Rittenhouse Square was second nature. And I just feel like this space, it brings back good and memories that have to be dealt with. So my mother and my grandmother sat over here every single Sunday, and I came back to the society after my father passed away. I needed something to help stabilize me. I needed that quiet of the morning meditation and to be also surrounded by people who loved me. I needed that love. And my grandmother was always here. Her favorite activity was the winter solstice. She loved the decorations for the winter solstice because that was her birthday. Her birthday was December 21st. And as she aged, she became the seasoned society member who would light the first candle. And then to light the rest of the candles. And what is darkness and light? The absence of knowledge and the presence of knowledge. And that was the foundation of the society, seeking knowledge to better yourself, coming out of the darkness into the light. And my mother supported her mother because as my grandmother aged, she needed some support as well. So she would stay and support my grandmother. My grandmother also was a member of the Rose Rappaport Long Committee. She was involved, and both my mother and grandmother were deeply involved in the society. Carol did a phenomenal memorial for the Ethical Society newsletter that just listed their history that they had with the society started back in 1964. And that refreshed my memory as well as I came here to talk about them and their work. And their influence had a big influence on our family. And ethical culture was inculcated in everything that my grandmother did. From going to hotels and not taking the towels to we
that was a rule.
yeah, that was
I've been working on that.
that was she lived these values. It wasn't just on Sunday. She lived the values of ethical culture. Our family, because she had so many children, she had a big tent. One extra child, couple extra children, couple extra adults didn't matter to them. They had a 7-bedroom home, and when their children moved out, other people's children moved in. And it was just it was like a revolving door of folks that they accepted into their homes, accepted into their hearts because of their values, because their values made sure that they wanted to help people do better, help people stabilize, and then move on to stabilize their families, to stabilize their communities as well.
Taking a moment to think about what I want to ask next, because there was so much in that initial conversation. Let's go. I said I would come back to theater. Talk about your parents. I think they met here because there was a theater program.
Yes. So they met at a young adult theater program here at the Society. And my father is from Florida. He was a Vietnam veteran. He was experiencing trauma after his service. And actually he lied to my family that he was in Korea. And we didn't find out until my niece was doing a genealogy search that on his grave plate it says Vietnam veteran. And for years they thought he was in Korea. I think he was ashamed of having served. And so they met at this theater program and fell in love, and then got married at the Ethical Society. And not too long ago, about maybe in the 1970s, they broke up, and then he moved back to Florida and passed away. And so my stepfather became the person who raised me.
But something, you did a minor in theater in college, so something must have stuck with you in terms of...
My mom wanted me to be a doctor. She was very sick. I can't stand the sight of blood, so and she couldn't deal with vomit. She used to make us clean up our own vomit. So I don't know why she wanted me to go into medicine, but I figured, well, if I can't heal the body, then I'll heal the mind, and I'll go into psychology. But I always loved theater. I always loved the arts, and so my minor was technical theater. And so technical theater was really behind the scenes. It was the folks that built the sets, that did the lighting, that set the scene for the stage. And that's how I felt in my life, that life is a stage, but it needs to be staged well. So why not understand lines and how to set up and block a theater, a show, to understand, because blocking also helps motivation. What are the characters' motivations? What are the motivations? What does the director want to project? How do you want to convey a message or a theme or ideology through theater? So that's what I was interested in. And also, my mother was a dancer, so I grew up in dance. And she supported the arts. My uncle is a working artist as well in New York, and so our family always supported the arts. We understood the arts from coming here, from hearing different classical music. My granddaughter's favorite show is Classical Baby on HBO. That's she can watch Classical Baby, all the whole episodes, and it's very reassuring, but also lovely to be able to share my love of classical music with her. My grandmother was also a member of the Philadelphia Orchestra, so she would get tickets to the shows. She was the first person that took us to concerts. We saw Michael Jackson live, so she took us to the Walnut Street Theater. She was very interested in the arts and supported the arts financially, but also making sure that her grandchildren understood the arts. My sister's a dancer. My daughter's a singer. My sister's also a singer as well. We love singing at different. We do a mean happy birthday. Our family happy birthdays are awesome. Are off the chain.
one of the reasons I wanted to ask about theater is that for me, it's become this moment, especially in our time with smartphones, where it's like if you go to live theater now, you realize, oh, this is a place, a room where there are 0 screens. There's lots of technology, like you said. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes to produce. There's lots of electricity and lighting and sound design that makes it not just that brings it to life, but you have to be there in the moment. You have to be paying attention. The actors have prepared, they're pouring their soul into this moment, and we're in a time period where it's just like so many things are just recorded or filtered, and you really don't have to pay attention. So I've just been going to see live theater almost weekly in Philly. We also just are blessed to have so many great performance spaces, and it's also one of the things that I'm trying to reach out to. I mean, we already have, like, during Fringe, there's production. There's things here that happen already DIY that people reach out because of this. We're the low-cost space on Rittenhouse. But I think, I know that in about a month, we're going to have an actor as well come back, and that's in our newsletter. You can read more, come back and see him speak. He runs a program called Theater in the X in West Philly to bring theater to the neighborhood. It wasn't just classical music, it was also a lot of jazz in your house and your family's houses. And you talked about one of the platforms you came and gave here at Ethel was, I don't know if this was the title, but I really hope it was the title, it's amazing. Obscure Arrangers and Their Connections to Jazz.
So I want to go back really quickly to what you talked about, the question about San Francisco, wanting to have lunch with my mother, and the connection with theater. Connection. Theater is connecting. You connect with the spoken word, you connect with the emotion, you connect with the music, and the spirit of connection moves us again forward. A lot of times we're stuck. We're stuck in our own heads. And I wanted to sit down and have lunch with my mother because my mother had so many wonderful life experiences, and I wanted to be able to learn more about her life experiences and just sit at her feet and learn from her about being a leader. So the jazz part was about connecting as well. And my grandfather was a World War II veteran, and if you know anything about black soldiers in World War II, it was not pleasant. But one of the things that he did do was, as a side job, he promoted jazz productions and social activities for other black soldiers. And so he got to know a lot of jazz musicians. And when they lived in West Philadelphia, one of the people who lived with them was Elmer Snowden, who was a really famous banjo player. And Elmer was like our older uncle. And Elmer was the leader of the band, but Elmer had a drinking problem and didn't pay his band. And Duke Ellington took over his band. So Elmer's band became Duke Ellington's band. So I learned about jazz history from my grandfather, but also from Elmer. And my grandmother, she wrote for community newspapers, and she was also a jazz aficionado too. So my grandfather inherited music from a man named Chris Albertson, who had a jazz show. And when he moved to New York, he gave his albums to my grandfather. My grandfather had a music room in his home, and he had the music all set up throughout the house, and it would project down to the living room and the dining room. And when my grandmother came here, when my grandfather had dementia, we would have Jazz Sunday. And so that Jazz Sunday included obscure arrangers like Jimmy Lunsford, but not so obscure like Billy Strayhand. And so the platform that we did was really about helping my grandfather remember and connect. And that's what we did. So he and I sat down, And I remember my grandmother being kind of frustrated with us because it was about him and not about her. but it was important to him to talk about the arrangers that he enjoyed because he was losing his memory. And it was important to me to be able to document the things that were important to his life. So we did that platform, we played the music, and we brought him here because he hadn't been here in a while because of his dementia. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful way to celebrate his life, to celebrate the contributions of jazz musicians who were brilliant, who could have been amazing classical musicians, but created jazz out of protest.
So one of the things that stuck with me when we were just speaking the first time was that we were talking about, you grew up in this big tent family, and a lot of people who were not part of the direct family stayed at your house or stayed at your family's house. There was a sharing of resources and space and love. And at the same time, we talked about how when you're in that situation, some people take advantage. And you also mentioned, you said you learned to tell the difference between people who are altruistic and vultures. And it's been something I've been working through and learning as running a big space where the doors are basically always open. There's a question of like, sometimes my sister would say, not everybody can be in the family, Phil. Not everybody. And so I'm curious, what did you mean by that? There's a simplistic part of it, but it's complicated. So.
It is complicated. The work that we do when I'm in my office working for Senator Street means that people are coming to us in crisis, adults. And it's having an adult not be able to manage their lives is traumatizing for them. And so sometimes they project that trauma onto the staff, and we have to figure out ways to neutralize it. And the way that I neutralize it is if someone is coming in with a problem that's unique and I don't know about it, I say to them, thank you for training me. Because then the burden or the weight of the relationship isn't about them coming to me for help, but me extending appreciation to them for helping me be better. So I find that that's neutralizing. But what I draw the line at is people who are abusive. There's a difference between someone who is frustrated and upset and someone who is abusive. And those people get hung up on. Because sometimes that abuse is coming from not a place of helping you to understand their frustration or their anger, but it's about them deciding that you shouldn't be where you are, you shouldn't exist, you shouldn't have the ideas or you shouldn't have the concerns that you had. And so that's where we draw the line. And I think that the difference is respect. When people come to you with respect, then respect is then granted. But when people it's funny because I had yesterday was a graduation for a program that was focusing in on the reentry community and for folks that had done 15 years in jail, maybe maxed out, and so it's called Community Restoration Initiative. And the program is really about helping people to develop positive role models and positive mentors and positive pathways as opposed to going onto negative pathways. And one of the things that I said to them was, stop listening to the demons. Stop arguing with the demons. You know the difference between an angel on your shoulder and a demon. Don't listen to the demon. The demon will take you in a place where it will put you back where you're incarcerated. The angels are right here. They're the people who want to see you do good. And that's the difference. The difference is people who are on a path that is a dark path and people who are going towards the light.
The respect thing I'm going to remember. Because I've been looking for pragmatic tools when I'm in a situation. Like how do I know whether I should continue with this or set a boundary. And I feel like if someone is disrespecting you actively, you kind of get that sense. I mean, it's complicated because it could be your ego, right? But yeah, that resonates with me.
Yeah, I think you know. I think you know when somebody's making you feel bad because you feel bad. But at the same time, again, when an adult is coming to you in crisis, there may be some nugget in that that diatribe where, okay, let's pick out that one thing that you said that we can try and course correct. But you can't make people happy. Maybe you can make them less angry, but you can't make them happy.
So, I mean, reading through your bio, learning more about you, you've worked on so many different projects, especially in Philly. I'm curious, like I've had experiences recently working at Camp Linden where there's some jobs that you work at and you don't see the point. And then there's other jobs where it's like, oh, that is just worth it. Like, this is like an end in itself. This is amazing. And at Camp Linden, like all the work we do, at Camp Linden, it's like you go out and you see kids running around in the woods and you're just like, oh yeah, this is worth it, right? What is something that, like, one or two things that in your work that are really those things where you're just like, this is why I'm doing the work?
Protecting my peace. That's the most important project that I'm working on right now. And that really allows me to be able to be there for other people because I have to show up for myself first. And there are a lot of projects that I'm really proud of, but the one that the things that I'm most proud of actually are my children, and my family, and my interpersonal relationships with my children and my family. I think that that's my foundation. That's where I go to, and it's not easy. It's not easy, but it is where the love is, and impact. Like you said, it can be immediate. Some impact projects are the cleaning, greening projects. You see it's dirty, you see it's clean. That's a good one. And so we have a garden program that we do, and that one was started in 2008, and it was actually started when I saw Michelle Obama doing a garden at the White House, and I said, oh, I got some land, I could do that. Meanwhile, the land was a vacant lot that was being dumped on, and it was prostitution and there was drug dealing going on, and slowly but surely, with my sister's help and the help of her adjudicating minors, which that's what she was doing at the time, we started clearing the land, and finally went to courses that the Horticultural Society offers, the garden tenders, Green City teachers, and tree tenders, and connected with a community design collaborative that created a design for the project and presented it to the Horticultural Society. They did a garden build for us, and we turned that garden space on a vacant lot in North Philadelphia into a space of beauty, and we started doing community cooking classes called Garden to Plate with adjudicated minors, and really happy that 75% of them did not reoffend. And part of the course was getting a certificate of food handling so that they could go into, if they wanted to, the food industry or catering. But more importantly, I would call up their moms instead of getting a call that says your son is acting up. I would say, your son made a banging salad, let him cook at home. But it was also about teaching young people about their power over the grocery bill and having them have influence over getting healthier food into their families and into themselves. And they came in angry and upset, but they left happy because they had a family meal. So that was one of my more favorite projects to work on.
Love that. Okay, let's open it up for Aissia. Who has a question for Aissia?
I saw Stan's hand first.
Well, the thing is, Stan's hand is always first.
It's
But
a
I'm gonna get it.
Thanks. I'm curious. One of the last things your mother and I did was tour the Uptown for coming up to use.
Thank you for that question, Stan. So I don't work on the Uptown project anymore. Actually, my sister, right behind you, Monifa, she's the one that's working on the Uptown project. She runs a really fabulous program that my mother started called Uptown Youth Got Talent. And that program is focusing in on science, technology, engineering, art, math, and music. So that's a program that she's been running. And then my sister Mariama is the board chair of Uptown, and she's working on the redevelopment of the theater. And recently got the property sealed so that vandals weren't going in to be able to rip things out of the theater. So it's a long project, and unfortunately, the work that I was doing with my mother was focusing on economic development in order to prepare for the beauty on North Broad Street. And when we first got the properties on North Broad Street in 1996 or 94, they got rehabbed in 96, and that block was a block that the 2200 block on North Broad, nobody was investing in North Philadelphia, mainly because the Rizzo administration had unofficially blocked investment in North Philadelphia because of the social unrest on Ridge Avenue and Cecil B. Moore. So for 3 decades, for the careers of all the people who Rizzo hired, the city wasn't investing in North Philadelphia. So when those properties on North Broad were purchased in '94, they were purchased at $35,000. Now they're worth $4 million, and we're property rich but cash poor. But people are investing on North Broad. In fact, we had an issue with our taxes, and I remember a woman came into the building saying that she was going to be the new owner, and she wanted to check out the building, and of course we kicked her out. We did an agreement with our taxes and got right with the city, but we, my mother and I made a strategic decision for me to go into politics because that's where things were happening to deter the forward momentum. We always talked about 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And that 1 step back was usually at the behest of a politician. So strategically, the decision was made for me to go into the political life so that I could protect the projects.
Questions? Eric?
Hi, Aaron.
It is so good to see you.
It's so good to see you too.
I thought of your mother last night. I was listening to Aretha Franklin. I don't know if you remember this, but one of the last things that we did was have when Aretha Franklin passed away. There was a community party,
Yes.
and your mother and others were there. And it's the perfect example you talked about before about like partying with a purpose.
Yes.
And I had the privilege and pleasure of learning from your mother for so many years. And I just wanted to say thank you to you and your family, and just to just welcome you back here. It is so good to see you. My Facebook
Thank you.
friend.
Our last party with a thank you. Our last party with a purpose was the Broad Street Run Drum. So my sister Monifa, my mom started it with a donor, Terry Biggs, and he was a runner, and then he became a drummer when he couldn't run anymore. And he would bring his colleagues out to drum and to encourage the runners. And let me tell you, it is amazing to see 30,000 plus people run by Broad Street. And we have a lot of fun encouraging our friends and encouraging our supporters and just letting people know that the building is still here and we're still working on it and it's still moving forward, So thank you. That party with a purpose is important.
Hi, I'm a little bit confused about the family dynamics. Your mother was Bertha, right?
No, that's my grandmother. My mother was Linda Richardson.
Oh, okay. And your grandfather, Lester, was he also a social worker?
No, he worked for, after he finished during the war, he worked for Signal Corps. And then he retired at 50 because he had his military service.
Was your father in Vietnam?
My father was in Vietnam, yes. My father was Donald Richardson, yes, yes.
Lester, right?
Lester Alfred Waters. Law. The law. That's what we call it.
Hey,
Hey, baby.
happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
So you mentioned that one of your foundational things is your interpersonal relationships within our family. I just wanted to know, what is your favorite part about our family? And our, our so uniqueness.
So, the support, you and Monifa showing up, we show up for each other. I think that's the being from a big family. Don't get me wrong. We have arguments. We have to work out tension sometimes, and but in the end, we show up for each other, and that is actually what my grandmother. That was her foundation. That was her rule. My grandmother grew up without her mother. Both her mother and her father passed away from tuberculosis. So she was raised by her grandmother. And I think that her siblings sometimes would fall out with each other. Her siblings' children would sometimes fall out with each other. They wouldn't speak to each other. My grandmother said, no, no, we're gonna confront. We're gonna confront the, I have a thing about arguments or conflict. The conflict for conflict's sake, no, we're not doing that. But conflict that helps you grow, conflict that helps you resolve, that's good. That gets you to the next point. That helps broaden your understanding of who you are and who the person is that you love. And I don't want to be trite and say love can overcome all barriers, because sometimes it can't. But one of the things that my grandmother mandated was that we would work out our conflicts. And so that's what keeps us bound together. That's what keeps us tied together. That's what keeps her children tied to each other. When we celebrate, my immediate family is 50 people. 50 people. So it's a beautiful thing. Oh, and then I always used to tell politicians too, okay, you may be looking at me, but my cousins are watching you, okay? Because we have cousins all over the city, and so that, to me, knowing, when my daughter went to Central, the first thing I did was call my cousins from Uptown, from the Germantown area, and say, hey, when you're going by Central, if you're driving, just look out for Yasmina. Look out, just make sure she's okay, she's on the right path. And sometimes I would get a call and say, oh, Yasmina's on the way home. Or I saw Yasmina downtown, so that, but that to me was safety. That to me was recognizing that there was a community that was connected, that was concerned in a good way about the welfare of the people who were involved in it. And we have a cousin chat. That's why I had to leave my phone down there. Because our cousin chat is on fire right now. Everybody wants to outdo each other with Happy Mother's Day. We celebrate each other. We celebrate each other's triumphs. I just had a cousin who graduated from, she's an Aggie. She graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering. Girlfriend is on the ball. And so we celebrate that. We celebrate that, our family moved from not having my grandmother, not having her mother or father to help raise her, to being a connected family that raises our own children. And we do not let our children go. We do not let our children go into any systems. It is not acceptable to have our children leave our family. Our family is our unit, it's our bond, it's what keeps us strong. Thank you.
Other questions for Aissia? Dan, sorry.
Hey, Facebook friend.
One of the things that I love about my memories of the Ethical Society is I had the good fortune to get to know Brother Roberts, who was amazing. And I great story she was telling, I knew that I was in the presence of a powerful, strong human being. And you alluded to talking about jotting down your grandfather's stories, and it's a good thing to get the stories from our elders because they're important. They're treasures that get handed down. So I'd like to hear you talk about the strength of Bertha Waters, that those of us who were lucky enough to know her knew a lot about.
So Bertha Stonewall Waters, I lived with my grandparents for 5 years, and it was during the time where my grandfather was, his dementia was he was deteriorating. He was still hilarious, he was funny as all heck. But I recorded my grandmother, and I recorded my grandfather too, because I didn't want their history to be forgotten. And I'm also glad that we were able to do a couple of platforms to have that history be codified here at the Ethical Society. My recordings, I shared them with my Uncle Jack, who was a filmmaker. And so I want them back, Uncle Jack, if you're watching. But I did take the time to record them. And you know, I tell people that there are only two people that I've been scared of. My grandmother and my mother. They were the only two people that I've ever been scared of, because I didn't want to fail in front of them. I didn't want them. I wanted to be what they poured into me. I wanted to be what they saw me as, being someone who was successful. But my grandmother, she was fiercely independent, but she was also fierce. She was no one to joke around with. I remember her telling a story one time when she was on the L, and somebody made a pass at her, and she took her pocketbook and smashed it in that young man's face. She was no joke. But she was definitely a lady. She taught us how to present ourselves well. She taught us how to speak well. She taught us how to dress well. And also, that's also part of theater too. You present yourself in a way that you want to be perceived. And respect was very important to my grandmother. She gave up going to getting her education to be a mother. So she parented her children and other people's children until she was in her 50s, and then she went back to Temple for night school, and then she went to Bryn Mawr for her graduate school. She became a social worker and ended up working for the state of Pennsylvania, and she worked for the Department of Education. And her job in the 1980s was to put together curriculum for the 600 school districts across Pennsylvania to teach women's history. And when I tell you, some of those folks didn't want it, she insisted that women's history was going to be taught and going to be celebrated across the state. And that's what she did. And she got honored by Women's Way. I understand Women's Way is just celebrated its 50th anniversary. She was a fierce feminist. She supported her daughters. She supported her sons. But she felt it was important for her voice to be heard. She had an important story to tell. And she helped us to be able to tell it as well. Hey, Kate. Kate has a question for her.
Quick one on Zoom, and then we'll go to Kate.
Yes.
Sylvia, that's her.
Sylvia! Hey, Sylvia. Sylvia's a constituent.
She says, hi, Aisha.
Hi, Sylvia.
Thanks for being here today. Love hearing about your family and wondering if Senator Street wins next week, if you're really going to D.C. with her.
I will let you know after May 19th.
So I was just wondering if you might want to share the story of Bertha and the bear.
Oh my gosh. You mean when she got lost in the woods? Oh my gosh. So, okay. So I'm gonna try to make it short, but it is kind of a long story. Our family knew and knows lots of people. One of the people that we were really close to were Bill and Miriam Crawford. Bill was an organizer for the Communist Party, and so through organizing for the Communist Party, he would stay in the state park system because you couldn't record in the state park system. So Bill and Miriam introduced my grandparents to camping, and initially they would go camping, and they also used to go to the folk festivals. And you know, if you ever went to a folk festival in the 70s, you know it was like muddy, nasty, wet camping. But we graduated from tent camping to cabin camping. And so we would go all over the state to camp at the state park system. And it's an inexpensive way to bring folks to nature and to environmentalism. So we also learned about survivalism. Our family also were Black nationalists, and we're part of like the Black nationalist movement. So we always had like staples in the basement, because you know we never knew when the revolution would happen. So one year, my grandmother took a walk with some younger cousins. They were about 4 young cousins, 10 and 11. And she thought she was going on a trail, but actually the trees were being marked to be culled, right, to be torn down. And they got lost in the woods. And when we found out that she got lost in the woods, my mother, who ran an organization, she got her PR person to do a media advisory to let all of the folks in the small towns that this is an important person that got lost in the woods. And so it made the news. And so it turned out that they knew where they were, but they just couldn't get to them because it was so dark. But what happened was the kids, we had all learned what was an edible berry, what was not an edible berry. So they ate edible berries. My grandmother made a lean-to because it rained. And the rescuers who mobilized just for something like this, they went out on their ATVs and they found them, and then they got them back the next morning. But yeah, it made the news, but they survived. You know, they survived. And at one point, though, it was at a point where children were being kidnapped, and so the media asked, and I think the police asked, well, do you think that she would have kidnapped the children? And we were like, no. She's not. She's done. She's done parenting little kids. No. But yeah, it was. But she survived. I still have the newspaper articles in some clippings. Yeah.
Charles, I'm gonna be the last one. Good afternoon now, and happy Mother's Day. So I'm not sure how to ask this question.
Ask away.
Well, because here I'll ask it several different ways, and you answer it however you want. I've been involved in politics, and I've been involved with ethical societies. Do you feel or believe that the ethical society either does not fully appreciate, comprehend, understand how they should be activists in communities, and or do you believe we are too passive and not as aggressive as we should be to get the issues we want in the forefront of the community?
I think that is a really great question, and I think that knowing that the Ethical Society is a member of power, and knowing how impactful power has been in setting policy, I also remember that the Ethical Society was doing calls, where they were doing, calling during the elections. So members were doing that. So the Ethics and Action Committee has been really active. And I remember being on the Community Funding Board for Red Roses, and Power came in, and they talked about what their theme was, or what their mission was, and they added non-theistic. They added faith-based but non-theistic because of the Ethical Society.
Actually,
that's impact.
Give a little bit of context about what Power Interfaith is, because people don't mind.
Yeah, so Power is an organization of folks in the interfaith community that does political organizing, and they've been really instrumental in helping to frame issues, whether it's cutting stamp benefits to violence prevention to criminal justice reform. They have been they sort of are the conscience of the political world. And so, you know, when the membership, I think it was at that time, it was Twain, he came to ask Brandon Roses for a grant. When they came and talked about the membership of the Ethical Society, that actually changed their language about how they operate as well. So I'm not sure whether that answers your question, but that's my answer.
Ongoing question. That's an ongoing question. Aissia, thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. It's not going to be the last time we're having Aissia. There's so many possible platforms we can ask you to do.
I wouldn't be my mother's daughter, and I wouldn't be Bertha's granddaughter if I didn't say the last day to register to vote is May the 12th. The election is on May 19th. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does.
Big round of applause. Okay, so now's the time for committee announcements. Do we have any committee announcements? Ethical Society committees. Any specific committee announcements? Do we have any race and task force reflections? Okay. Before I ask you to come up, Eric, other community announcements. Actually, I'm gonna have you do after Eric. Yeah. Okay. Eric of the Ending Racism Task Force, please come on up, Eric.
Do you like it here or do you want to hold it? Yeah. Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to all. My name is Eric Young. I'm a member of the Ending Racism Task Force. And I'm proud to say that Leader Richardson was a member of the Ending Racism Task Force. And we all learned so much from Linda. I had the pleasure of knowing Linda for maybe 40 years, believe it or not. And her memory is still here of just how much she helped the Ethical Society and just her presence for a lot of us. I usually do the Mother's Day thing, and it's usually, one of my first articles for the Ethical Society was Women Hold Up Half the Sky. And that kind of set me on the path. And talking to my mother, my family, just to give you an idea, is 3/4 women. So, yeah, women. My son and I are pretty much, we do what we're told, and we make sure we do it right. I just have a thing today about how important women is. So I asked this trivia question. I was talking to young people, and talking about the great things we've done, and just asked a simple question, you don't have to answer it now. Only one woman spoke at the March on Washington in 1963. Does anybody know who that was? Think about it.
Shirley Chisholm?
No. I will tell you after this. Think about it for a minute. And that was one of the things about the March on Washington. It was a great event. And one of the weaknesses of it is that there was only one woman allowed to speak. And that's something that we deal with and we correct so that doesn't happen again, because it only makes our movement stronger. Today I just want to read this phenomenal poem that I found in this book called Black Roses, Phenomenal Women. And it's dedicated to all the phenomenal women throughout the world. It's very short, and it is written by a woman named Raquel Willis, who was a transgender activist with such a credit and such a list of things. So it's very short, but I think it speaks to all of us, to what we heard today. Who fights the most for those who receive the least? The more stares, but less empathy. The most judgment, but the least grace. Your words have created a safe space. You push the conversation forward just by moving forward. You refuse to be docile. You have given hope that a brighter future is possible. One where they not only exist, but flourish. Your success sustains imagination. But even without it, you deserve your heart's desires. But unto those who are given the least are met with more, you continue to set the page on fire with the proper balance of passion and ire. It's painful to fight for everyone and feel unprotected, to show up for those in need and feel neglected. But you keep finding a language to make people feel they are not alone. You've given your heart to help people feel at home, but you continue to push against the red line until it is no more. You are creating space for all of us, and for that, we owe you more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. A few announcements that we have. One is Warren wanted me to announce that they're doing a free jazz concert here, and I believe, is this an annual? You think you've been doing it ethical? For how many years?
Jazz up, down, and around.
Up, down, and around. On May 30th at 3 p.m. So come back for that. And we have at least one broader community announcement. Katie, do you want to come up here? Do you want me to bring? I know you're pregnant, so I can bring her mic to you. Soon to be mother, a very good friend of mine.
Happy Mother's Day, everyone. My name is Katie, and I'm the founder of an organization called Sueños. It's a nonprofit in Guatemala. Some of you may have been. We did a fundraiser here in August. The organization provides bilingual education to families who don't have access to education in their first language, which is a Mayan language called Quiche. So it's a preschool and an elementary school, and we also provide wraparound services for families. In honor of Mother's Day, every year we do a really fun quilt raffle. We have a master quilt maker who donates a really beautiful quilt. You're gonna open it. So it's a really special thing that we get to do every year. Jane Hewitt is the name of the master quilt maker who donates a quilt every year. So if you think you might be interested in entering the raffle, just for one entry it's $25. And if you want to become a monthly donor, if you do $10 a month, we give you one entry plus 5 bonus entries into the quilt raffle. And we don't have like a huge donor base, so the odds are pretty good that you could win. So I will probably just be back here by the exit if you're interested. Thank you.
And now I'm going to have Warren close us out with a second tune. 6:30 at 3 p.m. Up, down, and around, down, up, and around.
Jazz up, down, and around.
Up, down, and around. So every week we pass the hat around for a different organization, and we always ask our guest speaker to choose that organization. And I spoke to Aissia, and she said, give it to Swingers. So this week we're going to be passing the hat around for Swingers. That's the organization that Katie just mentioned that's doing the quote raffle. Kate and Harry are going to go around with a plate, and if you don't have any cash on you, you can look up Sueños, Guatemala, or maybe talk to Katie about getting the right URL, because there might be a lot of organizations named Sueños, my guess is, that you don't want to give her any randomly. The other thing I want to do is, Carol still in the room? Yeah, Carol's in the room. So for both Carol and Aissia, we have a nice bouquet that we'd like to give you. Carol is part of the reason why Camp Linden still exists, and on the 2 weeks ago when we had a big event, Carol, you left early, and I didn't give you the bouquet, and it dried out, so I got to get a new bouquet. But wanted to give you this, Aissia and Carol. Just thank you for all your hard work, keeping this place around, making sure the building didn't get sold, making sure Camp Linden survived. We really wouldn't have this place to do all these wonderful things that we get to do here. It's something that we should all be stewarding moving forward. So thank you everyone for today. Thanks Aissia for coming. That was such an interesting conversation, and looking to have you back. And stick around for coffee hour, enjoy some coffee and snacks. That's right. Carol is. Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the coffee hour.